Whisk away your heart silent, bury it in mine.
Hey, what's up? My name is Dan. Welcome to my channel, and this is going to be the first video that I do for the channel. And what the video is going to be looking at is basically this green chalkboard. It's what I call the theory of English, right? So oftentimes when it comes to learning grammar, it can feel kind of random. At least that was my experience when I was learning grammar. People just chuck things at you like what is a noun, what's a verb, what are phrases, but it's not altogether easy to know where on the timeline of grammar, and there is a timeline of grammar, all of this fits in. So what I've done is I've basically drawn a start and a finish to grammar. So we start with letters and we end with essays. And just quickly, I just wanted to point out that this is not comprehensive. So don't comment that, you know, I didn't go into enough detail about what a noun or a verb is. Like, obviously I didn't, right? I can't fit in all that detail on this small board. And in any case, I have another board here. So punctuations on that side and parts of speeches on the other side. And even over here, I've basically, what all of this is just essay stuff. So it's a brief outline to show you where everything fits in, so that if you, like, for example, we're going to learn about nouns, okay, well, that's where they fit in. Timeline starts here, it ends there, and nouns are right there. Okay, let's get into it. I just want to fix one of the mistakes in this video. I said that a relative pronoun subordinates dependent clauses to independent clauses. That's wrong. A relative pronoun basically introduces an adjectival clause, adjectival phrase. So you'd say something like, you take that as an example, right? So you say that the man that was fat ran very far. Okay, so the adjectival phrase here is was fat ran very far, but you wouldn't say the man was fat ran very far. You would say the man that was fat ran very far. Relative pronouns. Okay, so for this first video, we're going to start right here, so with letters, right from the beginning, and we're going to make our way just about there. So we'll end there, otherwise the video will get too long. Right where we start with independent and dependent clauses, which is really where all intelligible meaning starts when it comes to English. But first, let's start right from the beginning. So this is what they teach basically in primary school, and that's letters. Okay, so we have our letters. What our letters are? So, you know, we start with A and we end with Z. Basically, what our letters are is they're base syllables. So they're actually sounds that we can make with our throat. So, yeah, you know, our A sound is ah. Our O sound is basically O. D is duh. And they're base syllables, but in order to really make anything out of them, to make them purposeful, we need to combine them. So we have combined syllables. Now, as far as I know, and I'm probably wrong, and you might want to correct me on this, there's only 3 real combinations of syllables, 3 types of combinations of syllables at least. And I identify these as our prefixes, our suffixes, and words. Okay, so let's start with words, okay? So here I've got a word. We can just start with the root word, which is the root word is don't. It's really just don't, right? But I've added some things onto them, right? So the ed indicates past tense. The un indicates a reversal of what the word actually means. So when you say don't, it's like somebody's imposing on you, right? But if you say undaunted, what you're really saying is that the effect of somebody trying to impose upon you it hasn't really worked, right? But the point I want to make is this. We start with our words, our base words, which really just describe things in the world, right? So anything that we see, anything that we do, anything that we think has to be described by a word, right? So we see a person running. What is that motion called of all the legs going every which place? We're going to call that running. Why is it called running? I don't know. And that's why I put here that most words are arbitrary. There's no reason why we're going to call running except for everyone's going to agree upon it. But apart from that, you got your words, you got your prefixes, and you got your suffixes. So both prefix and suffix are a type of affix. And basically what an affix is they're added syllables onto words. You add them onto words. That's why you have the hyphen here, to say that you can attach a word to it from there. So obviously the difference between these is that prefix, pre means before, so we put the prefix before the word, and the suffix is the one that comes after, okay? And obviously you got your capital letters, which is a variation of your letters, and we use them in all kind of places, not in the least at the start of sentences, alright? Okay. We were talking about words, right? So you can make all kinds of words, you can attach stuff to them like prefixes and suffixes. However, okay, there are types of words. So remember that all a word is it's just arbitrary syllables to describe things in the world, okay? However, let's say you see a man running or a woman running, right? So the woman is a different type of word than the action of running, okay? So how many types of words? Oh, and by the way, another way that people call this, and it's probably the most common way, is a part of speech. I don't like calling it that because I really think it's clearer if you just say it's a type of word. But in any case, there are really only 8 types of words out there, okay? And let's go through them now, just really briefly. I know there's a lot to this, but let's just go through them briefly so that when you're learning, we know where it fits in. Okay, so we start with our nouns. What our nouns are is basically they're things in the world, okay? So they're objects, they're stuff, right? You wouldn't be able to make sentences without nouns because every sentence needs a thing in it, right? A thing that's doing something, or a thing that's something's being done to. 2 types. You got your abstract, you got your concrete. And the difference between these two is actually quite simple. A concrete noun is something that you can touch. An abstract noun only exists in the head, but both of these are still stuff. They're still things, right? So abstract could be like violence, right? It's a thing, it's a concept, but a concrete noun could be like anything. A piece of chalk is a concrete noun, okay? That's really the difference there. So that's hopefully not too difficult. And you have different types of nouns. You got proper nouns such as the names of places, names of people. You got common nouns, which are like chalk. You got, don't know if you can see this, you got countable nouns, which is like chalk, and you got non-countable nouns, which it's like water. You really can't count water except you can measure it by mass. I put here that you can make compound nouns, so you can make compound nouns with a hyphen, and over here I go through it in some more detail. All right, so that's a video for another day. The second type of word is a verb. And what a verb is, it's basically describing either movement or states. Movement or states. Everybody understands movement. Like everyone understands that running is a verb. However, the thing that tripped me up when I was first learning this, is that verbs actually describe states as well. They call them to be verbs, like to be. Okay, it's existential. It's a difficult word, but it's actually very important. Existential describes existence, the way that something exists, right? So it's interesting that just something existing a certain way is a type of verb. It's a type of movement. So one, for example, is, right? Did you know that is a verb? He is clever. Okay, so he is existing as clever, and that's a type of verb as well. Okay. Over here we have different types of tense in the verb, right? And the tense of the verb really describes the tense of the sentence. I have a little graph here for tense. So that's the graph. I want to make a video for tense all by itself because it does require special attention. But briefly, you start with your past, present, and future. You can make a variation of them with simple and perfect. So simple means just as a fact, and perfect means completed actions. And you can add on to progressive, which is ongoing, right? So when you add all this up, you really have 12 tenses. So how this works is you go past simple, past perfect. Okay, that's 2. And then you do the same. Present simple, present perfect, 4. Future simple, future perfect, 6. So where does the other 6 come from? It comes from your progressive. Past simple progressive, past perfect progressive. That's 2. And then you do the same with present and future, and that's your 12. So I'll make a video on that when I have time. The third type of third type of word is an adjective. Now, put simply, an adjective just describes a noun, right? It's a word that describes a noun. So he was running quickly. Okay. No, that's wrong. That's an adverb. Sorry. So what an adverb is basically a word that describes a verb, right? So he was running quickly would be an adverb. An adjective would describe a noun. So the box was brown or something like that, correct? So those are your 2 types of describing words, okay? And they also have their variation in phrases. So sometimes you can have a string of words, and that can be adjectival or adverbial phrases, okay? So the 5th type of word is a pronoun. A pronoun is a word that stands in the place, so in the place of a noun, all right? That's what a pronoun is. So you look over here, and you have a whole bunch of pronouns, okay? So there's about 8 pronouns, okay? So let's go through them. Your personal pronoun is a word that stands in the place of people, okay? So something like he or she, all right? So John went to the shops, he bought some carrots, okay? You don't need to keep saying John went to the shop, John bought some carrots, John did this, John did that. We can use a personal pronoun. Demonstrative pronouns is really pronouns that point out particular stuff, right? So something like that. I don't want to go to that place, right? When you say that place, you're saying that you don't want to go to there, wherever there may be, okay? That's what a demonstrative pronoun is. Indefinite pronoun points out particular stuff as belonging to a family, but not the stuff in itself. So I can demonstrate this with chalk, right? Okay, so you got a piece of chalk here. And the most common indefinite pronouns there are is a and an, okay? So you say something like, this is a piece of chalk, right? However, when you say it's a piece of chalk, you're not saying that this chalk in particular, you're saying that this chalk belongs to a family of things that we call chalk. That's what indefinite pronoun is. Interrogative pronoun is basically asking questions, right? Who is that? So you say who, you're making reference to the person. Who is that? What is that? Also interrogative. Possessive, so we can take their, theirs, right? That car is theirs. It belongs to who? It belongs to them, right? So that's possessive. Relative pronouns are useful for connecting, and we'll get to it later, independent and dependent clauses, right? So we use a relative pronoun to show the relationship between two clauses. Generally, what will happen is that the dependent clause will be subordinated to the independent clause by way of a relative pronoun, such as that, right? Reciprocal pronouns are really two main ones, and that is one another or each other. So we would use them in sentences where it's evident which pair is being talked about. They didn't want to hurt one another, right? Who they are would be made clearer in the context of that sentence and previous sentences, and you got your reflexive pronouns, which basically are there to reflect back on the person. So you really could take out the X and just put a C and a T here, reflective pronouns. So something like myself. I didn't want to hurt myself, right? So you're referring back to the person. So those are your pronouns. Your conjunction. Your conjunction basically assists with connection. So conjunctions are useful for making sentences make sense. They're connecting words in the sentence. So three main types. You got your coordinating conjunctions, your correlative conjunctions, and your subordinate conjunctions. Okay? So coordinating conjunctions help with joining like with like. The most common coordinating conjunction is and. So bananas and apples. So that's their function, right? So you're joining like with like. Correlative conjunctions are joining two equal elements in the sentence. Okay. So we can use neither, right? Neither John nor Matt wanted to go to the shops, right? So what are the two equal elements of this sentence? You got John, you got Matt, and neither of them, so that's the correlative conjunction, wanted to go to the shops. And then you got your subordinate conjunctions. Okay, so your subordinate conjunctions basically are in the business of subordinating dependent clauses to independent clauses. So we can use however as an example. John went to the shops, however it was closed. So the moment you put however into the sentence, that second clause, so however it was closed, cannot stand on its own. John went to the shops makes sense. That's why it's independent. However it was closed, we need to know what the it was, right? It can't stand on its own. However it was closed. What was closed, right? And why? So that's why the subordinating conjunctions subordinate. The seventh type of word are your prepositions. And basically what a preposition is, it's easier to understand if you separate these two elements of the word. You separate pre from position. So pre means going before, position means position. So basically what a preposition is, it's a word that stands before another word to show its positioning to another element in the sentence. So for example, you say to. Okay, I want to go to the shops. You put to before shops to show the relationship between you and the shops. You want to go where? You want to go to the shops. This is a problem with non-native English speakers. They'll say, I want to go shops, right? Well, firstly, there's two things wrong with that. First is you missed out on the preposition to. You want to go where? You want to go to the shops. And they also miss out on the article, which is a type of adjective, a type of determiner, the shops. Which shops? Not any shops. You want to go to the shops, a particular shop. Okay, so that's why a preposition positions, okay? And the last type of word is an interjection, and these are pretty easy because you can identify them by where they are in the sentence. And also what they do in the sentence. Okay, so for example, you see here, you can't read this, but it says surprise. Surprise at the start. Okay, so you say something like, hey, come back here, or stop, come back here. These are types of interjections. Like they interject the sentence to inject some excitement into the sentence, right? And obviously I'm going to make a video for each of these. However, those are your 8. So you start with your nouns, make your way all the way down to your interjections. There's 8 types of word. So where we are now is basically here, okay, where this big line is, all right? So now we're going to enter into our independent noun dependent clauses, okay? And it's really here that you get intelligible meaning, okay? So I will see you on that next video whenever I do make it. So like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be back with you soon. Thanks.
Only hidden